So what is the essence of stage red? It's this. We could call it egocentric and domineering. It's power hungry. It's a mode of survival, which is very animalistic in the sense that in the animal kingdom, might makes right. If you can physically attack somebody, or you can chase them down and eat them, bite them, scratch them, trick them, exploit them, then you do it as an animal. That's just survival in the animal kingdom. And that's very much what survival looks like at stage red, in stage red societies. It's very exploitative. This stage is individualistic. If you remember, spiral dynamic stages, they oscillate and swing back and forth like a pendulum between individualist stages and collectivist stages. So stage red is individualist, then it's going to swing to stage blue, which is going to be collectivist, then back to stage orange, which is individualist again, and so it oscillates this way. So what this means is that stage red is about taking charge without taking into account the suffering of others. It's very, very egocentric. That's why we call it egocentric. It's all about me and my ability to survive and reproduce, and maybe my immediate circle of friends and family. But even there, at stage red, you might be shocked to learn that stage red is so egocentric that it might even hurt and cause suffering to its family members and even to its closest friends, because it's just so self-absorbed. Stage red views life as survival in the jungle. The strong will win and the weak will lose. They tend to see the world as one divided between victims and predators, and that there's no other alternative but to compete. And stage red wants to be the predator, not the victim, of course. It's pretty natural, right? I mean, if you were forced to choose between being a victim and a predator, wouldn't you choose to be a predator? At least that's how stage red thinks about it. Stage red is impulsive, and it looks for immediate gratification of its desires. So if it's horny, it's gonna immediately want to have sex. Damn the consequences. If it's hungry, it's gonna throw some lavish banquet and gorge itself full of, delicacies and the best food that it can, without thinking of the long-term consequences, and so on for the way that it generally approaches life. Stage red has neither guilt nor concern for others. This can be a little bit difficult for some of us in developed democracies to appreciate. Those of us who have a higher sense of morality, those of us, like most of you who watch me, are probably at around stage green, maybe high orange, low green, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit above green. So if you're coming and looking at red from that vantage point, the difficulty with this entire episode is for you to understand red is going to be difficult, because to you, this seems like psychopathy. It seems like craziness. It seems like insanity. It's going to seem like red is just brutal and criminal. Like how is it possible that a human can have no guilt, or that a human could not care about causing suffering to its immediate family members or to its friends or to others? How is that possible? Well, that's because society has enculturated you so well, because you had the luxury of standing on the shoulders of giants and growing up in an advanced society which has been evolving for hundreds and thousands of years, that now you just take that for granted and you think that, well, humans just always were compassionate and always were, capable of guilt, and they always, treated each other nicely and so forth. No. What you have to understand is that the software that runs the human mind and all of human society, this software has been upgrading for hundreds and thousands of years, and it's different in different parts of the world at different times, in different eras. And it transforms how you see the world completely. It's almost like we're talking about living in different realities here, right? So The challenge for you here as you're listening to me is that it might seem like what I'm talking about here is exaggerated, or that it's hyperbolic, or that it's grotesque, and that it's evil. Many people would consider stage red evil, and yet it's not evil. It's not even bad. It just is what survival is like in certain parts and times in the world. And so what you have to really appreciate about red is that red is an effective survival strategy given a specific type of environment. So red usually exists in very brutal environments, very underdeveloped parts of the world where there aren't effective court systems. There is not effective and fair police. There is not a democratic government at stage red. There are not human rights. There is not even a notion of morality. There is not a notion of the Ten Commandments. There's not a notion or a value of compassion. These sorts of things are luxuries when you're living in a certain type of environment, certain parts of the world, which are very underdeveloped, which all of the world was 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, right? So you have to appreciate that. So one of the things that many stage green and above people fail to appreciate is that the only reason you're at stage green is because your society has developed the infrastructure and the kind of government and culture. Thousands of years of cultural evolution have happened to allow you to stand on the shoulders of giants so that you live in this nice, comfortable society where you can have the luxury of compassion for others, and where you don't have to worry about somebody stabbing you in the back as you're walking down the street. You don't have to be worried about being robbed at gunpoint while you're driving down the highway by some highwaymen. You don't have to worry about pirates because there's police that protect you. But in many parts of the world, there isn't such a thing. Or if there is police, these police themselves are stage red, and they're part of some criminal mafia, and they've been paid off, and they're very corrupt. And so unless you're able to pay them off, or you're friends with somebody in the police, then they're not going to help you. And in fact, they will abuse you themselves and exploit you themselves. So we'll get into a lot more of that as we keep going. Stage red has this attitude of challenging death and coming out on top, prevailing. So it tends to be very risk tolerant, because it has to be, because the environment it grew up in to survive, it had to take some bold and daring risks.